And we are back online, and I'm still Fauzi, and this is still Nick sitting below
Still
me,
Nick.
and he still has a bone bruise. Do you still have a bone bruise? I'm actually curious. How long did it take you to recover from your bone bruise? I know if you'd probably have no idea what we're talking about right now, so you have to watch our other video first.
Oh, great plug. Great plug. So, bone bruise is revealed by an MRI, so they have to rely on
Yeah.
swelling. It's not about the bone bruise not healing. The bone bruise can heal perfectly fine, but because a bone bruise in the knee is essentially both your femur and tibia, so the two bones in your leg, hitting each other when they shouldn't. And
Okay.
so
Yep. 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 Yep.
the cushioning, which is cartilage in between the cushioning, gets damaged or
Uh-huh.
weakened or compromised. And then it's just a slow trickle effect. So for me, I didn't notice the effects of osteoarthritis probably for about 6, 7 years. And I was able to notice it because I'd have significant swelling in my leg and pain, but there was no logical reason
So you
for
just
that.
never recovered. So you basically still have.
Yeah, it's still there. So I
Yeah.
actually have a hole. So this is kind of gross, but there is a hole. It's not very large. It's, probably, pinhole size, but there is actually a hole in the cartilage between the tibia and fibia. So if I go out right now, if I just said right now, I'm just going to go run down the street, my knee will swell up. That's a guarantee because that's going to bang against each other.
Okay.
So I can support that by strengthening the muscles around it, strapping it, taping it, all that stuff.
Yep.
But that's also where Lonzo Ball, he recently just got the cartilage surgery.
Mm,
It's
mm.
it's a new thing as well. So maybe in 10 years, the surgery will be accessible from the public health sector, and
Fingers
I'm
crossed.
back. I'm
Maybe.
back.
Fingers crossed. But hey,
But
look.
is that what we're here to talk
Oh,
about?
look, I guess those that have tuned into this video, you got a few free 90 seconds of medical opinion right there.
Oh, from a trained
By,
professional.
by a
Yeah.
survivor, yeah, by a survivor. But guess what?
Homebrew survivor.
You know what? You survived week one, man. Well done. You won 5-4 against me. You probably have a record now of like 10-1 against me, literally, isn't it? You beat me every single time except that last week in
That's
June.
a
In
that's a that's a
June.
really good job of diminishing my achievement. But thank
But
you.
look, tell me what were some of your, how did you manage to pull off this W? And you sent me a message a few days ago, and I said to you, man, I'm impressed. Yeah, all right. You said, oh, you actually looked at all your stats, I believe, and you sort of compared them with a league average after 1 week, and somehow declared that your team sucked. Is that what you sort of told me?
Yeah, I'm glad that you got here. So obviously, a lot of demons that I'm fighting this season, a lot of redemption that I'm going for. It's why the team's called Redeem Team. So I'm gonna get you to do this on your screen just so that you can work with us.
Yeah, yeah.
If you are a fantasy owner and you have access to the PC, this is probably the easiest way to do it. But one of the tabs up the top is called standings.
Uh-huh.
And so I was very active on the
Yeah. You see.
standings last night. Last night was when I made a couple of calls.
Yep.
Standings is great, not for the records. Don't get caught in the records here because it's too early days. But each of the categories can be clicked on,
Correct.
and you can see your ranking amongst the rest of the league. And so I don't want to bore you too much, but essentially, outside of say assists and steals,
Mhm.
I'm actually middle to bottom of the league. And I'm actually in the bottom of the league for some of the categories. Now, that's okay, because if you want to be good in one category, you might have to compromise another. But there's matchups that are going to occur in the future. I'm not just trying to beat you in week one, I'm trying to win the comp.
Yep.
So I have to make some considerations. So then, as another thing that you can do, so join with me on this one, you can go to scoreboard
Scoreboard. Okay. Yep.
and you can go back to matchup one. You
Yep.
can do that.
Yep.
And
Correct.
so let's click on the box score between you and I.
Yep. Done.
And then the other thing you can view is total. It's already set for me, but maybe it's set to a date for you. But you can look
Oh
at
yeah,
total.
at the bottoms. Yeah. Cool. I can see it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And this shows you the stats from your players all week.
Includes the
So you
minutes
can
as well.
see
Is
some,
this where you're pulling minutes from last week? I know you're talking about, oh man, you played 45 more minutes than me. I'm like, where do you even look at this stuff, man? I'm
yeah.
like,
So I was able to beat you with just 3 less minutes. But that's not, it's not worth figuring out. What's worth figuring out is who played a lot but
yep.
didn't do much for you. So
Okay.
I look at Zachary Rocher. He played 38 minutes for me, but clearly had that rookie slump.
Mhm.
He had to go. Alex Caruso was not getting a run. 3 games there, and he did not get more than 19 minutes. So I was like, I'm sorry, he's not doing anything for me. And then Chris Paul in 56 minutes to give me 6 points. I don't love that. So this was part of the decision making, like who isn't really holding up their bargain. But I am last in the league in field goal percentage, and the last in field goal percentage really hurts. And so I looked at it. Chris Paul's 22%, but he's only taken 9 shots. So it's not really hurting my overall team stats. It's just, it's not helping. It was Kyle Kuzma, 9 of 32. He's taken a lot of shots and he's not doing much for me. Now, nobody shot well this week, so I wonder if there's this rust that's coming off the off season.
Week one,
But
week
I
one.
just love what Kyle Kuzma was doing. And I had flashbacks. I had Kyle Kuzma, I had Miles Bridges, I had Paolo Banchero. None of them shot well, but I was getting such good raw stats and I was winning every week. I felt great. I'm trying to jump in early because there are players right now having breakout seasons that I want on my team when it matters, not to win the week. And so that's where Jaden Ivey came into it. Because Jaden Ivey is basically giving me Chris Paul stats
Yep,
times 10,
yep.
right? He's giving me significantly more points, more rebounds, more assists, just as many steals. So he had to go. Santi Aldama is giving me slightly worse raw stats of Kyle Kuzma, but is giving me more around the edges and giving me significantly better shooting. So it's just these decisions that I made. Jabari Smith right now is my tweener. Jabari Smith I picked up because he had that 16 game, but he can also give you blocks and steals and give you threes, but he's not giving me that right now. But I have
Yep.
Trey Murphy stash, but I also might get rid of him. But as you alluded to as well, good fantasy owners, I could trade anyone. Really, I could trade anyone if the lineup works. And so, do I try to build my team around blocks? I don't think that's very smart because you look at the top of the league in blocks, it's 35, it's you. And then second is 29 and third is 24. And I'm down there at 15. I don't think I'm a blocks team, but
Mhm.
I'm a steals team,
Yep.
right? I'm
Mhm.
tied second with steals. I'm clearly in that top echelon. Assists, I'm clearly a top assist team. So these are my categories. So can I build on that? Well, I feel like I have. Jaden Ivey comes in, Santi Aldama comes in.
Mhm.
I'm going to have more assists and steals than I did last week with just those two slots. So I feel good about that. Um, Picking up Dyson Daniels, I'm going to strengthen these positions. So now I reevaluate after this week. I might hold my lineup. I don't think I'll make as many herky jerky choices this time, but I'll wait till the end of week
I,
2, analyze it, and then see what I can do next
I have a
because
question for you.
I'm
You,
not content.
I'm looking at your roster, man, and obviously now Steph Curry's out for at least the end of this week. Let's say he's out a little bit longer. Do you end up dropping Trey Murphy, or do you play with one less active player? You just ride two injured players here. I don't know,
Great
man.
question.
It's like what are your thoughts
It,
right now? You're not.
it's actually a really easy question to answer.
You,
So, um, if I was trying to be competitive and get points on the board early, I would probably look at dropping Trey Murphy and stashing. But for me, in the context of my league, I'm actually playing bottom of the ladder, and I don't think Sai's super team is active because Sai currently has multiple
he's like
players.
four players out, I think.
He has 4 players who are out, none
Yeah,
of which are stashed in the injury reserve, and all of which are
I've
usually in his
noticed.
starting lineup. So not only is that working in my favor, that right now I already have a 7-1-1 lead and almost 100 points, double-digit steals, assists, rebounds, threes, shooting, and field goal will play out as the week goes on.
Yep.
I don't need to do anything this week. I'm going to be fine.
Okay.
No disrespect to Sai, but I've got this
Yep.
one in the bag. And Luca had a 5 or 22 day today.
Yeah,
So
Luke has gone crazily bad right now.
I I don't need to do anything. I don't
Yep.
need to do anything this week. So I get to let the week set, and now I get to see another week's worth of stats and then go from there. But I'm totally open to exploring trades for Steph, not just because of the injury, but also because I don't love the minutes.
Yep.
26 minutes is not what I expected out of Steph Curry.
Yep.
And the irony is, my best player, technically, in terms of points, in terms of like everything, is DeMar DeRozan, who I picked up at the end of the draft. He has 24 points. He has 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2.3 steals, 85% from the free throw, 50% from the field, playing 38 minutes. He's actually my best player. Devin Booker had a good game today, but has struggled in the last 3. Um, and Pascal Siakam had a good game today, but hasn't really popped off recently. And Alperen Sengun hasn't popped off. And Karl Anthony Towns is taking less than 10 shots a game. So DeMar DeRozan is my best player. So everyone else right now, I would humor trade offers. So I actually had a trade offer today.
Yep.
I had Steph Curry for Kawhi Leonard and Drew Holiday.
Who made
Um,
that? Who offered that? You offered that? Or they offered
that
that?
was that was offered to me.
Okay.
So I was trying to play the rookie card of getting Steph for Tatum
Yep.
because I would love to have Tatum back on the team. But the counter offer was Kawhi and Drew Holiday.
Yep.
Obviously, Kawhi could be really good statistically, but it's too much of an if play. And Drew Holiday right now, Derek White is the guard that I would take from Boston over Drew Holiday
Mm.
out of those two. So I declined it. But I think probably the big message that I'll finish on is you are projecting forward. Week 1 is nothing. There wasn't a lot of games in week 1, so you're going to have a lot more games in week 2. You're going to have full rosters a lot of days. And trends start to emerge after 4 to 5 games. That's how you start to get the averages, because you get the weird, 45 points from this random guy on the Tuesday night, which is his second game, and now his stats average 25 points a game. You need a couple of games to settle in. There's still good players on our watch list. There's still, RJ Barrett sitting there as a 20-point scorer. Scoot Henderson, who you dropped to, we mentioned before, even Bobby
Well, let
Portis.
me let me ask you a little bit. So, let me try and summarize a little bit what you sort of just shared, a little bit your thought process, which all makes sense. I love how you sort of studied all the totals and things like that. I feel that's a little bit though what's just past. So you're always looking for more so what's forward, right? Correct. So I think that's where I made some decisions myself, and I'm going to ask you, for example, like let me start with mine. Okay, I dropped Scoot Henderson, and I said he should be a player that you definitely should be watching right now, who I think will have a really good year. But I dropped Scoot Henderson, and I picked up Jalen Suggs. Yeah, and Jalen Suggs. Obviously, he is a starter for the Magic. Scoot's not starting right now. He's had a fairly reasonable good start. He is probably the third option for the Magic right now. Okay,
Yep.
and I guess I'm banking on the fact that I think his stats right now and his role right now is probably more significant than Scoot Henderson right now. Now, I'm going to come back to your example. You dropped Kyle Kuzma and you picked up Santi Aldama. Okay, yeah. I would make the argument here that would it be more perhaps better to have ridden Kyle Kuzma a little bit longer? And I know you had him last season, okay? Because his ceiling is higher. See, here's the catch, yeah? His ceiling is higher than what Santi Adama will probably ever do for the Grizzlies. Because simply the Grizzlies are fairly deep, yeah? If Jar comes back, Desmond Bane's playing, Jaren Jackson's there, he's now the fourth, fifth option on the court, and that's fair enough, okay, in that situation. Whereas Kyle Kuzma, if he gets going, okay, which you would imagine he would at some point in this season, he is probably, just like Tobias Harris is on paper the most experienced player at the Pistons, Kyle Kuzma is probably the most experienced, as I say, Jordan Poole at the Wizards. Okay, all right, and I'm not talking about say Valanciunas, who's now come in from a new club, obviously, so he's new at the Wizards. Okay, we're talking about some existing players that have already been there and been in that system. Um, I don't know how much of that weighs in to your thought process. I guess in part, for example, I'm going to keep my eye on Scoot Henderson still. Okay, and if he starts to trend upwards, I would love to grab him again. The catch there would be that I have to grab him before someone else grabs him. That's the trade-off, the risk.
So Kyle Kuzma's already off the table. So Keith has picked him up, dropping RJ Barrett in return. I just think, look, as someone who had him last season, I know it sounds weird to say in a fantasy setting, but he's not a winning player. I think he hurts you. So the stats look good. You look at the career stats, you look at the season stats. Like I pulled up his season stats recently. It will mellow out. He'll probably shoot about 40 something percent next season. Sorry, for the rest of the season. He'll only average, maybe 2 turnovers or something like that. I just didn't want to, in a very simple way. And I think there's real merit sometimes. He's a known commodity that will give you 20 and, let's say 20 and 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
20.7 rebounds on 40% shooting. That's what I know he's going to give me. Is that going to win me a championship by the end of the season? Or is taking a flyer on Santi Aldama, who's a third, fourth year player now, coming into a Memphis lineup that's trying to be
But what's his
competitive,
ceiling? His ceiling's probably not 20 and 7.
but it might be on better shooting. And so that's kind of the thing. I'm last in the league in field goal percentage. I'm last in the league. I I have volume shooters on the team. I don't have enough raw stat category to take that. I need to be better in that shooting while also maintaining. And I think the way I looked at it is I've increased my shooting by almost 30% based off Kyle Kuzma's week, and I keep the stats. I really haven't lost anything picking up Santi Aldama versus dropping Kyle Kuzma at this stage in the season. Maybe in 6 weeks I'll regret this, but I think you make moves in fantasy that you can't fixate on. I don't regret trading for Luca last season. I regret holding on to Miles Bridges and Paolo so long. That's what I should have done earlier, right? And so I think the way that I'm approaching this season is I'm going to be aggressive in the moves that I make and try to make stuff happen. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay because I thought through why I did the things that I did. What I'll regret more is holding on to players too long. And so that is why the bottom 4 or 5 players have already rostered through my roster. Because I will be damned if I'm getting to June
Hey,
next year and taking another L because I got too complacent. I will not be complacent this season.
I love the you've come out of the gates. Yeah, you want to come out. If this is a horse race, man, you're beating your horse extremely fast right now, and you want to be a front runner. Is that probably what it is? Like
But
there's
I'm
a
not. This is
but
the thing. I'm actually not. I'm not even.
but you want to be a
I want to
front
be a
runner that
dark
can
horse.
finish. You want to be a front runner that can finish.
I'm not thinking about 2024, man. I'm all about 2025. I'm trying to project forward. Is Jaden Ivey going to take that leap for the Detroit Pistons and be really good? Right now, he's averaging 20 points. So he's looking really, really good. And if Cade gets injured like he often does, then I'm poised to have a really good player sitting there. If Jaren Jackson Jr. gets hurt again and Santi steps up even more, then I'm really, really good. And I've got to look at my, players like Cat and players like Steph and figure out, is there a trade there that their name is going to carry them? Or do I sell high on DeMar DeRozan? I have to do something. I have to do something because I will be damned if I get another short made about me losing a championship.
I,
Okay.
I love it. So I guess Nick's advice is to stay active, regardless of where your standings are, because at least when you're active, you're getting some exercise in the fantasy world. And look, honestly, I must say, I made a few moves that I haven't done that much so far. I made a few moves that I just evaluated that is this player where the ceiling's at, and I felt if a ceiling is higher right now than another player, I'll go with them. It doesn't necessarily mean I don't like that player that I necessarily dropped, but it's like you got to clear a spot sometimes because you only got 13 spots in that sense. I'll tell you right now, I didn't realize, but I just had a quick look. So Keith obviously beat me to get Kyle Kuzma. I wanted to have a go with Kyle Kuzma, and I could give you some feedback on him too, but I guess Keith will get to have a go with him right now. Now the question becomes, should we grab RJ Barrett? But hey, look,
I
let's.
mean, so I'm looking at your lineup and you're holding on to a Men Thompson, which you're obviously banking on those stocks going up, but right now at just 20 minutes a game, not really doing
Yeah,
much.
he was a guy I was going to
And
drop for Kyle Kuzma.
yeah, and that would make sense,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Because of that. And you've got OG and Anobi who's playing 35 minutes but not really giving you much statistically. So is there a trade there? Um, but I look at your team, for example, and you've got rebounds and blocks very well sorted, right? So that's where you can afford to look at the Thompson twins and say, I'll get rid of you and strengthen another category because you're that strong in those categories. Whereas I think for me, I need I need to see how this week goes to see where I cement myself and what plateaus out a bit because I don't think I've got any category dominated like I did last season. Last season, I always had points, right? And that's probably a conversation too. You look at Chris's basketball team, and they dominate in a lot of. Sorry, not Chris's. Sorry, it's because of the double CCL. Colin's competitive team, he's got points locked down. The difference between him and last place is almost 400 points. That's crazy. That's how much he's dominating. And when it comes to turnovers, he's not last in turnovers, but he's shooting the most. And when it comes to field goal percentage, he's also really high. So his team shoots really well and scores a lot. And that's a dangerous combo, along with the fact that he still puts up good raw stats across the board. I just think you're looking at team composition here, and a lot can change. People are hit with injuries now, but they might come back later, and vice versa. Um, but yeah, I know. Looking at your roster, I was like, you're in a good spot too. I think we're both in good spots because we have moves to make, and this isn't our final team. Whereas I think some people are playing their league currently as if they're not going to touch anything for the rest of the season, and that's exactly what will get you in trouble. Take it from me.
Make some trades. Pick up some free agents.